Hello and welcome back to another episode of Inside Out with Sahas and Ali. We talk about mental health, mindset, and challenge your belief system to push you up to more wise and find that genius inside of you. Yes, I said genius because you are one. Today we have a very special guest joining us, Delia Peterson. She has her own podcast by the name of Everyday Experiences. Delia is an international startup mentor, mindset mentor. She has created a platform where successful people from all the industries can share their challenges of their everyday experiences in pursuit of greater success. It doesn't matter how you define success, all that matters is willingness to learn and elevate your daily experiences. So, thank you so much, Dalia, for doing this. And I'm so glad that you're here with us today.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
That's
Thank you.
awesome. That's awesome. So, for all the listeners who are listening it on audio like Apple or it is Spotify or Anchor, uh, go ahead and give us the comments because this is our 18th episode, and we know that we try to bring you more value from the people like Dahlia, Mark, and all the people that we have we have interviewed just to get you the content out, just to give you a little bit of insight about our stories and just give us a little bit of feedback how you're liking it. All the people who are listening it for the first time, we do it every week. We get this podcast out every week, and we, like we said, we talk about mental health barriers and challenging belief systems, and I hope you will get the value out of this episode as well. So getting back to Dalia, how would you introduce yourself if it weren't the way that I introduce you today?
I would introduce myself as a badass chick from Philly, proud, Philly homegrown. I'm actually somebody who has dealt with a lot of challenges, and I've just been very resilient and fortunate in my life to have the people around me that, although there were challenges that could knock you off your ass, I've been resilient enough to actually keep going and find my way back on track to where I am. I'm in my 40s, but it's all good. It's never too late to start. And I'm just happy to have the experiences I've had.
Yes, awesome. And just before we started the recording button, and we were just talking about it, that the moment that I spoke to you and we had we had a slot of 20 minutes of call, but we extended to like 1.5 hours because I was so I wouldn't say surprised, but like it was so exciting to talk to you, and because the kind of mindset that you have, and all thanks to Mark for introducing us. Now we are also working together in the project, so that's really amazing. The how connection happens and the way
Yes.
that we are progressing further in our work and relationship life as well. And yeah, so this is really great the way that you said that I am a badass Philly girl. And it actually resonated. I could really relate with it because the first time conversation that I had, you are a badass. So going on to that, like talking about how was your, like we'll get into like how did you become badass? How did you get to know that you have to get through your whole full potential and getting to that headspace that you are in today? And also not forgetting to mention that you are a part of Impact Theory program as well, and Tom Bailu, you listen to you are being mentored in a way by all the giants from the like motivational industry as well. How was your childhood like if we talk about it, how was that? How were you growing up? When you were growing up, were you always in Philly or before that somewhere?
Yeah, I've been in Philadelphia my whole life. I've had a love-hate relationship with the city I'm from. I've There's parts of it that I absolutely love. And as I've gotten older, I've come to
Hmm.
be more grateful for where I'm from. And I never regret or have resentment for my experiences or where I come from. So as an adult, I fully embrace the parts of Philly that I love. There's parts that I wish I could change. There's parts that I just wanted to kind of always run away from. Not run away from, but I just wanted to have a different environment and a different landscape and experience different things. But my childhood, I came up through the 80s and 90s in Philly when drugs was popping. um the surroundings, it was drugs and alcoholism is what I've experienced growing up. Somehow, I attribute a lot of my success growing up to spiritual connection. I was, even through the drugs and the alcoholism, somehow my family managed to get me to church. And it was in my faith that I grew as a very young child in church, that I started writing angry letters to God when I was upset. I was like, I can't stand her. I had this idea that if you're going to talk to God, he already knows how you talk on real life. So it was no point to sit there and make it fancy, like the way the pastors talk about it, or the way you hear other people prayer, like, oh, Heavenly Father, thou art. Like, I just talk to him real. And I still do.
Yes.
Profanity and all. Because I'm like, it's not like you don't know. Like,
Yes.
it is what it is, right? But my faith is kind of what anchored me to some type of center to have sanity. Because there was a time, I could tell you, we had no hot water. There was a time we had no heat in the house. There was a time I was hungry, didn't have any food, and was outside playing and just hoping that one of my friends' parents or somebody would offer me something to eat, because I was kind of hungry. And it's not to say, like, my parents are very loving. My dad's a social worker. Well, he's a retired social worker. My mom, she used to work for Temple University, but you know, looking back, I realized they were the same age that I am now. And they were just figuring out life, and they were given into the circumstances they were exposed to. So I don't hold that against them, but it was just the experience of growing up around that made me stronger, which is what I'm most grateful for. It's kind of this unique thing where it's like, some people are just angry about the experiences, like, why me, why me, why me? And I'm like, I wouldn't trade it for the world, because I know what it's like to be hungry and a sister's resourceful. I know what it's like to not have, and I'm okay with that. What I do have, I appreciate. And the time that I have with my kids, I just parent a very different way. I keep my head level and straight. And there's a lot of things that I avoid because I watched it all. I have two older brothers, but they're 16, 17 years older. So for me, it was kind of like almost growing up the only child, because I'm youngest and I'm the only girl. So while they were out doing their thing, I was the only child in the house. So it's that fly on the wall. You see everything, you observe everything, you hear everything. And even though you can't put it all together, you just realize there's something kind of fucked up and wrong here. Yeah. But going back to my faith, I was very grateful, because I'm like, well, I've never been molested. I've never been abused. I came out on the other side of this a whole person with issues, because I grew up in a dysfunctional family, but I came out of it as best as I could. And I can tell you 1,000%, I'm gonna keep swinging and fighting every day. That's just my attitude. I don't give up.
Wow, that's amazing. Delia, a quick question now. I know you mentioned there were a lot of things that went in or in your life, and you eventually decided to, change. But was there a specific event that, let's say, changed everything in your life? Let's say that made you really open your eyes and seek better things outside.
When I went to the Coast Guards, I was in 10th grade. They had an engineering program. I originally started off interested in civil engineering. And in 10th grade, they had this engineering program at the US Coast Guards. We went away for a week. And this is my first time alone by myself, no parents, nobody that I know. Like, I cried on the Amtrak ride up. Like, I was excited to get on the train. And then, like, when my mom and dad like waved by and the train pulled out of the tunnel from 30th Street Station, I just sat there, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I'm by myself. I'm like completely alone. I started crying. There was this really nice lady on the train. She came and sat next to me, and she was like, this is what I say. Like, I always feel like spiritually, I've always been protected. Like, it was like, there was no coincidence. She was there. She sat next to me the whole ride. She got me to calm down, and she was just really cool. But going to the Coast Guards introduced me to discipline in a different way. Mm-hmm. And it introduced me to, I found the thrill of doing the hard things there. And I was like, this shit is addictive. Like, I like this. Like, the challenging, like the fun runs that we had, like in like 90-degree, 100-degree weather, like that was pretty awesome. Being like forced to wake up at like 4 a.m, whatever time they had us getting up. that was pretty fun. So yeah, it was just like that experience introduced me to something that I was like, there's something else outside of Philly I want. There's
Mhm.
something else outside of my current life. It was just a new experience. And they say new experiences stretch your mind. And that was one of the new experiences that really stretched my mind, that kind of transformed the way I thought about things.
And also,
Interesting.
like the way that you said that you were always resilient when like things didn't happen the way that it was supposed to be when you were a kid. And but it's very, don't you think that it is very easy to become a victim and have that kind of a mentality and grow up in a different manner altogether with the kind of mindset or the headspace that you are in today? Do you think, like, was it that you were self motivating yourself to become that person, or you had some kind of an external, may that be spiritual help, or may that be a guide around you who you could talk to and get that kind of a mindset, so that you are like, I'm a badass and I'm not going to give up, I don't want to become a victim? So was there some kind of a help that you got, or it was just awakening or on
I'm
you?
not I'm not exactly sure. I want to lean towards the fact that I was just very angry and frustrated. I went through a period of hating my parents, and there was just this fire that I was just so freaking angry about what was going on. I just wanted to get away from it. And sometimes it's not the things that pull you in, it's the things that push you out.
Mhm.
And it was like I felt more repelled by the things that motivated me to want to go the other way. And I've like, through all my years, I can just remember, like, more than being attracted to a better life, I was just turned off by a bad life. It
Mhm.
was more of that end of things than being attracted to the positive things. I guess maybe it turns into a motivation, but it's a motivation more from a dark side, because there was anger and there was frustration there, not like, oh, there's a better life, I'm going to strive for that. No, I just didn't want this shit. That's all I knew. I just didn't want that. And I didn't want that for myself. I just felt like I could if I could just get away, then I could make it better somehow. But like I said, I had my two older brothers, and my one brother, he was on drugs also. That's my oldest brother. But then my other brother was the opposite. My youngest brother, he was overprotective. I had to wear a t-shirt over my bathing suit, even at 20. Um, and but he was always like my protector. He was my comforter, and he just made me feel okay about life. But my brothers always said I would never be a victim. They're like, you're not going to be able to fight a man and beat him, but this is how you get away. And then you come and get me.
Mm.
My brothers always gave me like that type of confidence and strength. Plus, they gave me like every weapon in the book. Like, you name it, I have it. Like, I'm just that girl with the stun gun, the switchblades, the knives, the gun, like everything. I've got them all
Mhm.
because my brothers took care of me. So their strength was my strength, and they always gave me that confidence. And then my parents, even though they they were kind of dysfunctional at the time, they're both very strong-willed people. They fight over everything, and if they think that it's right, they'll fight for it. Like, my parents are those type of people. My dad said, don't come home when I was 18. Don't come home without your voter's registration card, because he went through the 60s. My mom is very much like a firecracker, like no other. And so I was never around weak people. There was just an unfortunate circumstance when it came to drugs and alcohol. But my parents were never weak people. And I grew up in that type of environment, but there was a different way that I had to harness that energy. I'm not as stubborn. I'm more flexible. I'm not as angry. I'm much more gentler and more positive energy. Like, I'm the positive, upbeat one in the family. I can always see the bright side of everything.
Mhm.
Whereas they can just see like the problem in everything. And I'm just like, no, but look at this way. And they're just like, yeah, shut up. You're just getting on my nerves. So I
Yeah.
hope that answered it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And you're absolutely, so this was a very good thing that you shared, that you got your strength from your brothers as well. So
Mhm.
somewhere that, because, I can relate with it in a way that when I was a kid, I always looked up to to my, when you're a kid, you look up to some kind of guiding light. May that be may that be spiritual, may that be your parental, or anyone in your family who you can rely on. And you're absolutely right about the fact that, your even your parents are also going through their learning curve in their life. So the thing that we have, that they are superman and women, they're just like human beings, just like you and I, and they're also trying to, get shit done at that time. And we think that, they need to know this, they should know this. They've never been in that suit ever. They're also just trying to understand the shit together on their own, in whichever way that it is throwing up to them. But yes, but that is where the resilience part also comes in, right? Sometimes you either become like that, or you want to say that, no, this is not for me. I know that I want to get away from this. This is not me. This is not the kind of shit that I want to go through in my life. So, and it's great that you got that help and your own resilience from your brothers as well, and that power to fight for, no matter what kind of a physical skill that you have. And you learn from that, and also that helped you to build that mental space around you, that I'm a fighter
Mhm.
and I can do fucking anything if whatever comes in on my way. So I think it's a very good, you know, the foundation that was built in your life. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. And you don't find that compassion or understanding for your parents until you're a parent. I didn't
Mhm.
understand what my parents were going through until I became a parent.
Absolutely.
I was like, oh, wait, I'm still figuring this out. And I hope my son's not holding me to hold it, like to figure this out and know all the answers and have my life together. I'm sorry I don't. But like the name of the game is just teach you as I learn. I'm passing this on to you. I parent differently, but I ain't got it all figured out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I tell them that.
Yeah.
mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like parents are, we consider them these amazing, powerful beings, but they're just humans in the end. They have emotions, they have flaws, and like in the end, like when you actually kind of analyze and think about it, like you look back and see, okay, they made a lot of mistakes raising you. Now it's your job to fix that for yourself and your kids, to make sure the generation, the cycle, and the wheel doesn't keep repeating. So,
Exactly.
like, your job is to basically come in and stop that wheel if you see there's some kind of issue generation wise. Like, it's very easy for a generation to grow up with a very negative mindset, a very scarcity mindset, because
Mhm.
their parents taught them that, their parents taught them that too. So um, it's not your fault that you grew up in a certain society, or you were born in I guess, in a very unfortunate circumstance, but it will be your fault if you didn't change it in the end.
Exactly. And I would say to my mom's interest, like she's really, really such a strong, incredible woman. Like I remember growing up, the thing she would always say is, I don't care if I have to sleep under a bridge with my kids, I will always have my kids. Like, and not to be graphic, but she's like, if I got to sell my ass to feed my kids, like that's the type of mom I have.
Mhm.
Like
Hmm.
she's so incredibly strong, but she grew up in a generation where she was exposed to her own traumas, and her traumas have been unresolved, and she's 75 now, but she's done the best that she could with the way that she could. But the one thing she did always tell me was that she was determined to break the cycle of my mom's Puerto Rican, and in Spanish families there's a lot of abuse that goes on. There's a lot of abusive men. There's a whole lot of like just issues that you grow up with as a female in certain cultures. And she was determined to break that cycle. So the way my mom talked to me, the way my mom taught me, the way my mom raised me, even in her issues and even through her own problems and her own demons that she had to fight, she still made sure she told me these certain things. And it kept me safe and it kept me protected because I knew things to look out for. I remember her telling me, oh, watch out for these girlfriends. Like your girlfriends will try to take you around. And if they're sleeping with somebody, they'll try to introduce you to somebody and they'll try to get you to sleep with this guy.
Yeah.
She's telling me this when I'm like 11 years old, 12 years
Wow.
old, 13 years old. And I remember I was about 13 and my girlfriend and I were hanging out and we went, she's like, oh, let's go over to a friend's house. In the same exact situation my mom warned me about was playing out right before my eyes. And I was like, I recognize this. My mom told me about this. Damn, she was right. And I was able to see it and say, yeah, no, I'm good. And I was able to get out of it. So even in her twisted ways of teaching me certain things, even if they were not appropriate for certain ages, I'm like, you didn't need to talk to me about this at like 5 years old. But like I said, she did the best she could, but she prepared me for life. And I'm so grateful to her for that.
Yeah, that's the best you can ask for, honestly. How ready did your parents make you when growing up? Like there's some kids, they're still, you know, living in a bubble, sadly, because they were never taught life skills and their parents weren't taught that either.
Yeah.
And absolutely, like what you said about, like, you know, uh, like coming out from that background where women are not treated good, and there is a mental and physical abuse as well, which they have to go through in their lives. One thing that I believe that, you know, the reason why there is higher divorce rates in the US, Canada, and all the other Western countries is only because people in Asian countries, South Asian countries like in India and Pakistan, they're not speaking out. The females don't have a liberty to speak out, because if that happens, that number can go very wide in those countries too.
Yeah.
And because there's so much of these things which are prevalent out there in our societies as well, talking about women abuse, talking about, you know, uh, physical, mental, sexual, so much of things are also happening. But now we see that the trend is shifting in a way that women are getting empowered, and they're getting a right to speak to what they stand for, which is so much important in this life. And imagining the fact that, you know, third world countries are just left behind in the way that the society is moving and everything, it's so painful to look at sometimes when you look at the newspaper and think that, you know, why why isn't this happening out there? And like I'll share one experience of my in within my family as well. Like my sister got divorced, and it wasn't a really so, like, you know, this, like in India it's like, you know, marrying the same like if you're an engineer, marry an engineer, or a housewife, or
Okay.
if you're a doctor, marry a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
because the headspace is pretty much in the right place, because there could be an ego, there could be something, so marry the same kind of a person in that case. But it doesn't work that way, right? You cannot compare a person how they are according to their profession. You're not
Mm-hmm.
even going through their characteristic, their, like, what do they really stand for, what are their worldviews, who they are as a person, and you're comparing in terms of, you know, their professional degrees. And that what happened. And so she had to get divorced because, you know, they were not cordial with each other. So like there were some physical stuff happened and everything. And it's so it was so unfathomable for my parents, and to realize that, oh, if she can even get a divorce, because it's like society, it's like it's not that open to say that. And
Mm-hmm.
it was so much you know, such a kind of a cry from inside from me. And I was like, I went to my parents and said, say the word divorce, just say
Mm-hmm.
it. Your daughter is divorced. Why can't you accept that fact?
Mm-hmm.
And that is so much there, and I'm just 1%, like 0.000% of 1% of the population who would have said that. A lot of women don't even get divorce, fear of what people are going to say, what they, even their own parents are going to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just sad to, you know, see that
Yeah.
how things are there, and moving
You
better
know,
right now though.
it's that's such a good point you bring up, man. Like I see this all the time. Like same conversation with my family is that, hey, um, if you're gonna marry someone, make sure you marry someone on your own level. If you marry up, there are gonna be problems. And I'm just thinking, so you're saying that a person's value is defined by their degree or their school education. Like that makes no sense. I mean, I can marry someone under or on the same level as me, but how does that guarantee that there's not going to be any problems? You know, I've met some great people I've been really compatible with, and they're, you know, doctors and engineers and like, you know, lawyers. And I've met people that might be on the same level as me, what I'm doing right now in business management, but there's no connection.
Yeah.
So I never got that idea. Like, you know, when you brought it up right now, I'm just thinking back, like I've seen that in my own life as well. And I never got that idea where it stems from. Just because you have a degree or some education, that defines you as a person, and therefore that's the circle you belong in.
Actually, the thing is that also, Ali, because the culture, the places that we've been grown into, education has been the most driving factor, because
Hmm.
we come from the countries which are like developing, which were ruled by Britishers, and like
So true, so true.
of
Hmm.
that, like the only way to bring ourselves is by education, right? So
Mhm.
society development only happened when there are more engineers, more scientists,
Hmm.
more doctors. So education had been a very important integral part of our life, but we didn't realize in the whole scenario that we started comparing each other, not by the kind of a person he is or she is, but by the kind of work that they do, and they started
Yeah,
defining that person through their work, which is definitely
Mhm.
not a compatible human relationship.
exactly.
Mhm. I think it's all like cultural values, but the values of the cultures have to adapt and change as the times change. Because like the way, like my dad's side of the family, they're from Monroe, Georgia. And for them, you know, there was a, I think my grandfather's mother, or not his mother, she was a Native American, but his father was technically a slave. And the fact that my grandfather came at the end of slavery ending in the US, what they value as a people was completely different from what my dad valued. My dad was the first one in his family to get a college degree. And he went all the way up to his master's degree. So that's like a whole different value system for him. But then when I look at my dad's values compared to my values, compared to my son's values, they're so drastically different, because it's like, yeah, dad, well, I didn't grow up in civil rights. So
Hmm.
when he was very strict about voting, he was strict about voting because he marched for those rights.
Right.
Whereas I'm like detached from that by a generation. And then it's like my son, I'm like, you're kind of your generation where we're at in the country here in the States right now, you're kind of heading back towards the quality of grandpa's generation. You got to start fighting for your rights again. And it kind of skipped me. So it's like all these generations, we value different things, but it's like, it's called like evolving and evolution. Like we have to evolve with the times, but there's like a double-edged sword, because it's like we're over in South Asia and in Asia, the value that your parents and your grandparents have on education, it's the reason why when I went to Temple University, our whole biology department, our whole chemistry department, engineering, like all of it is like South Asian people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then like even when you go into certain sectors of medical, like I was a medical lab technology student, they're all South Asian. And it's like there's more values placed on that. So you guys will work for it harder, whereas there's barely any value placed on education.
Yeah.
At the point we're at in our country here, especially in my city, where the school system's falling apart, and these children are not being taught the value of their education. So they're not even going after it, on top of the fact that the education system's broken anyway, because you're not even teaching them like to be a person. You're
Yes.
just
Yeah.
teaching them memorize and spit out facts and then go on. Like, where's the mindset? Where's the growth
Yeah.
at? What do they do with that when they're done? I don't know. I just think like the cultural differences and the value systems that like our grandparents had versus parents, and now we don't agree. We don't see eye to eye. We're like, no, you guys are old. Like, what are you talking about? I marry who
Yeah.
I want.
It's pretty funny you say that as well. Like my conversations with my grandparents is so hard. It's almost impossible. When you're speaking to people that are at a certain age and grew up at a certain generation with a certain mindset, it's always best to just nod your head and agree, because there's no changing their mind. It just saves you a lot of like anxiety and headache. And that's what I've learned to do. Like same thing with my parents. Sahas would agree as well, like because there's no changing someone who is 65 or 75 with a certain mindset. At that point, it's pretty much set in stone. What you can change is how you react to their whatever they're saying and whatever they're doing.
So true.
Absolutely.
But they have some really good lessons to learn from. I love listening
100%.
to old people. I love listening to their stories. And what you were saying about divorce, like my grandparents, my dad's parents were married 83 years. But I was like, when we celebrated their 80th anniversary, I was like, Grandma, how the hell did you not kill him by then? Like, I would have choked him out by now. And she's like, oh, you can't kill him. And I was like, but to think of the things that she went through, but to also remember that wasn't an option because of the society and the stigmas that go along with a woman leaving her husband or a woman being on her own, that I have the liberty to do now. When a friend of mine invited me to go to Saudi Arabia with him, I think to Riyadh or
Riyadh,
the capital, right? Yeah, it's like, this Philly girl did not belong over there. I'm sorry. I will be in the town square probably getting hung or something, because like my mouth is off the charts and they're not ready. They're not ready for me. So I'm like, I will respect the culture and keep my ass here in the States over like this side. Like, you know, but there's like those differences. You got to respect the cultures. But I'm like,
absolutely,
women here are just very verbal, almost to our detriment is what I'm starting to feel like. It's almost to our detriment. And I know there might be some women that disagree with me, but it's like I teeter on the edge of, I think women should be empowered. Women should be able to do the things that we're able to do, but let's not do it to the effect that we're disempowering men to be men. I don't want my son to grow up unable to make a decision or unable to do certain things as a man because he has a woman who's like, no, I'm a woman, you don't tell me what to do. Like, there has to be some kind of mutual respect still. And I just have like this idea in my mind, because I was raised by strong men, that no, I can be a badass strong ass woman here in a certain space, but at home, if I'm married, I want my husband to be a husband and I want him to be the man of the house, because that's your like, I just still think like I respect those roles, not total like
but
the other extreme.
Yes. I also believe that, behind any relationship to work, there has to be an intention also. Intentionality in a way that understanding the other person with an intention, not that you are inherited with that kind of a gene to, believe in equality or anything, but for anything to work out, like, for example, like my wife and I, we might be totally different people. I might be a little on the talking side or extrovert, or she's like, she wants to keep her own belief system to herself and everything. And but she has very strong belief system, and also like things that she would do, I wouldn't even understand why would she do it. Thing is to intentionally thinking about why she doing it and respecting it is is really really important. So like, if you're not like, if I'm a male, I might not understand everything about a female, how she would be doing things, but there has to be intentionality of understanding the other person, and that will help you to learn and adapt. So having that learning experience, for somebody to teach that, always adapt, always try to learn and have an intention to learn, will always help someone to be better into whatever, and respect other person also with their individuality.
Exactly. It's really interesting what you once told me. I find that so helpful, is that especially with women, or even someone you're close friends with, don't try to change them for who you want them to be. Let them be who you are, or who they are, sorry. For example, if your partner isn't expressing love emotionally as much as you want, don't try to change that. They might do it in a separate way. They might not be verbal about it, but they might be more physical about it. They might get you gifts. They might, do the dishes or clean the house. So Don't try to
Mhm.
change them to be someone you want them to be.
Actually, you have an aura about somebody to be, oh, this person needs to do the way things I want them to do. And that
Hmm.
changes the whole narrative also. That at that time you just stopped. So you at that time you just stop, respecting, or you could say that, accepting that even the person is doing something good out of their own, they're going out of their own boundaries to do something for you. You
Hmm.
don't even realize that, and you say, oh, it could have been done that way, it would have been better. And you just forget about like the whole emotional foundation or the standpoint of where is it coming even from. So I think that was
Right.
important one.
Yeah. Now, Delia, I had a quick question. So you do, in your experience as someone who also is a mentor, do you, how actively are you right now um, teaching students in mindset?
It's like almost so many meetings and so many calls a week.
Yeah.
Constantly talking to people and realizing that they're everybody's mindset is different, but there's such a common thread. There's like this huge common thread between all of us, male,
Hmm.
female, young, old, black, white, brown, whatever. Like we all have these these personal insecurities and this inner narrative that just like screws us all up. So it's like the number one
Yeah.
thing you help people realize about, just hold the mirror up for them and just let them
Right.
see. It's like not let them see themselves, like, but let them see themselves the way that you see them. Because
Hmm.
oftentimes we don't say to other people what we would say to ourselves. We look
Exactly.
at people, and when you're in this like amicable situation or relationship, like I look at Sahas or I look at you, I'm just looking to see the best in you, because I'm not interested in bringing out the negativity or the dirt or anything like that. So if I'm talking to you, I'm going to be like, yo, I think you're awesome. This is how you're amazing. This is how, this is how you're crushing it and you're killing it. But then like when we hold the mirror to ourselves, we're like, you're a fuck up. You messed this up.
Yeah.
You just like, you're shit. Here you go again. You did this wrong this year. And now you're doing it again this year. You're in the same cycle. You never change. Like we go through this whole thing of
Right.
like dogging ourselves. And I think hold the mirror up for people so they can see what you see.
Yes.
Yeah.
That I think that's helpful.
And I'm really glad you said that, because I do find that very common, is that we're our most common enemy when it comes to doing anything in our lives, right? Now, like you said, you saw that as a very common thread. Do you think this is happening? And I'm saying this because I see this as a common thread as well amongst a lot of people I talk to. And I'm just curious where it's stemming from. And my theory is that it's coming from because of social media and nowadays the pressures young people have in their life to live up to a certain expectation. I'd be interested in getting your idea on that too.
I think definitely, I think the social media like magnifies the same issues we all had growing up, because we didn't have social media, but there was still always that pressure, that social pressure to fit in, to see what your other friends have. Oh man, I remember like when I was young and they got like Sega Genesis came out and like Nintendo came out, like,
Yeah. Good
oh man,
times.
you don't have Mario, like you're not playing the Stargate. Like I was like, no,
Yeah.
my parents they got me Atari this year. I don't know why they got me Atari. Like I was like the outcast.
Hmm.
And it's like social media just magnifies that problem.
Hmm.
And I find like for my son is 15, he'll be 16 next month. And I find for him, it's a lot of conversation around just allowing him to understand that he's him, you are an individual. And I kind of go back to what Tom Bilyeu says a lot. It only matters how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. And I always reiterate the consequences of his actions, because he has some friends that do things that are a little strange. But my son's pretty good with navigating the friendships that he has. Like if people are into things that he's just like, I can't believe you're doing that. Like that's kind of nutty. Like, why would you do that? He'll back away on his own. So I'm very grateful that he has that mindset. But at the same time, like it's constantly comparing yourself to somebody else. And the social media just makes you look at what everybody has and sees what you don't have. And then you have all these insecurities because you're like, well, I don't have that nice car. Or damn, look at where she was at. She was on vacation. Oh, your family took you here. And then also just like body image. I think body image is a big issue.
Hmm.
for younger people with social media, because like everybody's like Photoshop and filtered down to like the nth degree. So it's like, you know, you're looking on social media and like I'm trying to figure out like, why is my son worried about if he has abs or not? Like, are you seriously worrying about this? And then
Yeah.
but he's like, his actually, I did ask about it because I was curious, was it like a social media type of thing? But his was more like he's enjoying his health class this year and he's realizing like, no,
Hmm.
they said belly fat is not, it's not okay. And I was like,
I
oh,
see.
okay. But like the girls, he even has mentioned him and his male friends like talking about girls. He's like, man, she uses so many filters. He's like, you're dating a filter. Like, you tell your chick to take her filter off. Like,
That's
the
really
way they
funny.
talk about it. But it's like they're very conscious about the images that they have of each other, like through social
Hmm.
media. Because it's like, well, how do you show up on camera? Like in a
Yeah.
filter? I don't know.
Yeah. And it's
Photoshopped abs.
and to be honest,
True.
it's not just anymore with the girls side, it's also with the boys, like, and people expect you for some reason to be very, well dressed up and everything. I remember one of the lives that I do, so generally, like, I'm always like that,
Oh yes, I remember this one.
right? So I'm generally,
Hmm.
I have, this is my hair, it's on.
Yes.
And then they're not brushed up, everything. I always wear a cap which is like this, and I always have IGTV lives and everything, and in the most my way possible. Not like
Mm-hmm.
I want to become some other personality and suit up and do the lives.
Hmm.
So somebody came up to me and he said, "Live was great, but a small tip for you. It would be better if you get dressed well and everything, and for like." When you are interviewing someone and everything, I was like, okay, thank you, I know where it is coming from, because I'm not holding it against you. And I made a post about it
Mm-hmm.
after that, and I told that I'm not saying that you are wrong, but you are not thinking my perspective. It's your perspective, I respect it, but it's not mine. I have a
Mm-hmm.
different narrative, and my narrative says, if I have a skill, if I have something to give of a value, it is far, far more important than how I dress up.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it really doesn't matter on that scale. So I don't have that scale with me.
Exactly.
For you, it might be. For some people, other also, where you are dealing with them. And I think that is why you are not my client.
That's what I was gonna say. You're not for everybody.
Yeah.
So who you're not for will be turned off by you one way or another, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be for everybody. I'm just for people. If you're real, you're raw, and you like hardcore truth, and you're a David Goggins fan, what's up? Holla at your girl.
Yeah.
I don't like I hate the pretenses about social media. Um, it's like, could we get any phonier?
Hmm.
It just irks my soul. Cause it's like being at work or like in a meeting or like at a at a gathering with family, and you have these people with these fake ass smiles on, just pretending that life is so great. And you're sitting there looking at them and you're like, yeah, you're full of it. Like, you're so full of it, you're stinking. Like, I'm a BS sniffer and I just smell it coming a mile away. Cause it's like, just be real. I
Yes.
think that I think mental health would be a lot better
Yes.
if social media got real.
Yes.
Hmm.
Stop showing me these like, I'm into fitness. I love lifting weights. But when I tell you, it plucks my nerve, it makes the hair on my neck stand up. Every female like Instagram influencer, every day's not booty day, girl. Stop playing with me.
Right.
Every day's not booty day. You got an entire body, just like the guy at the gym that's constantly working his biceps or his chest. You
Right.
got to do legs sometimes, bro. For
Yes.
females, you can't just do your booty every day. You've got to work out your biceps. You got to work shoulders. You got to do the whole thing. But they just go for these false images. It's not even about the
Like,
exercise. You
like,
got your outfit matches. You're not even sweating and your hair is done. Like, who works out like that?
like, like, to be honest, like, the all of this credit goes to the Kardashians. Like,
Yeah.
depicting which is very
Yes.
unreal altogether,
Mm-hmm.
and making that as a standard for a social
Yes.
media. And that is
Yes.
just, so sad to see that, when, so there was a post by Coel, what's her name, Coel,
Who?
Kardashian.
Oh, Khloe
Oh,
Kardashian. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so she
is
posted a.
that the one that freaked out about the bikini picture?
Oh yes.
Ah.
Yeah. Sorry, we have to. I have to keep it up to the standards and everything, but didn't the Photoshop didn't go well. Like you don't become a victim here. You don't get to be. You have actually just destroyed the standards for all the women out there, which are like literally trying to get bodies cosmetically in shape and everything surgeries done just so that they can appear like you. You are the whole artificial way of showing that how you're not supposed
Mhm.
to be, and you are
Exactly.
saying
Yeah.
that you are the victim. You're not the victim here.
No, she was like trying to sue people for actually getting the real picture and like reposting it. I'm like, girl, if your body is that screwed up that you're that mad about what the real thing looks like compared to the Photoshop,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they get off on the fact that majority of people never see them in real life. Because I'm sitting here thinking, like, there was a movie. I don't know if you've seen it. It's an old movie from back in the day. I'm gonna get you, sucker.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
he hooks up with this girl at the bar. It's a comedy. He hooks up with this girl at the bar. She's light skinned. Oh, that's when light skin was in, and she's beautiful.
Mhm.
So he takes her back to her place, and she's like, "Oh, let me just get a little comfortable." And she takes her contacts out, and she's like, "I hope you don't mind." And he's like, "Oh, okay. I thought your eyes were green, but okay, that's fine." And then she's like, "Yeah." She said, "Well, while we're at it, getting comfortable," and then she takes her hair off. And then she's like, "Well, hold on, let me go real all the way." And she had a fake booty on. She had fake bra. And she starts taking all his stuff off. He ends up running out of the apartment because she hopped after him with one leg. She ended up having a fake leg too. Like
Oh, wow.
it was such an exaggeration.
Exactly.
But this is the real things that are going on with Instagram, with social media right now. Like women are posting themselves with so much makeup and
Yes.
so many filters, so many weaves. And I don't knock it, but I mean, how can you date somebody who's completely phony?
Yeah.
And then, like, I don't know. I'm curious, like from the male perspective. Like,
Mhm.
you date this woman, you think she's beautiful, and then the first time she's like actually has to take a shower and the makeup's off and the weave is off. Like, you see a totally different person because they look totally different.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you get mad if he doesn't want to be with you after that? Because he's like, no, I fell in love with this image, and you're like, I don't know what
Yes.
what this
Even
is.
if you compare, like, if somebody really who gives the the way that person looks a priority, then that's sad for him,
Yep.
because
Mm-hmm.
uh, because that is what he fell for. He fell for
Yep.
something like cosmetic, something like very nice looking glow and everything. And when you remove, so like that is not your real personality is.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but this is why I also believe that to balance it out on social media, it is really, really important for people like you and me and everyone to put out the authentic content, also putting out that this is the real life. And there are people, and I so I respect their vulnerability, and the way to what stretches that they go. They will just go to whatever ways to show that they are like these in reality. There are women who are in bikini who will be showing their stretch marks like real fat and not photoshopped. They would literally show you that this is my photoshopped and this is my real fat. I have this going on, and they're talking about it. We need more people like those to
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
give the break the barrier for the teenagers and also the new generation which is going to be there on social media, that they don't have to maintain with any kind of a standard. It's just in your head. You just need to be real. And that's what the social media is all going to be about. It's not about the unreal person which you're not at all from inside.
Mm-hmm.
How would I be able to relate with somebody if I don't know that person on social media? And now especially more when you are all
Mm-hmm.
physically, you cannot meet so much. It is not possible for so many people to meet with each other in person. So you need
Mhm.
to have that authentic personality out so that I can know that person how he or she is.
I guess it
Mhm.
all depends too, like what your platform is for. But it kind of reminded me, like back in the day, like Kodak. Like there was always like the
Mhm.
Kodak moment. But when you think of pictures, nobody takes pictures of themselves like when they're sad. You don't take
Right.
pictures when you're in your rock bottom. but it's like these social media is like that Kodak moment, like on steroids, and nobody's ever real, but it all points back to the mental health problem because so many people are not comfortable in their own skin. So many people don't like who they see in the mirror.
Yeah.
So many people are just uncomfortable being alone with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I've even realized like people can't even sit in silence, like without the TV, without the radio on, or without some kind of noise or something distracting you from dealing with who you really are and what you're running from. Like we always
Mm-hmm.
need these distractions and we need all this noise to filter out who you need to be dealing with. And I'm just very, very happy and fortunate to be in a place where I'm comfortable showing up who I am. I'm a little loud. I am inappropriate sometimes. I curse a little bit. I have a weird sense of humor sometimes. I will laugh if you fall. But at the end of the day, you know exactly who I am and what you're getting with me. There's no pretenses. And I'm so relieved that I don't have the pressure to hold up this phony facade or persona to help make you feel comfortable in your skin. It's not what I'm here for. And I just hope that sometimes, like when I'm being who I am, even though I feel sometimes like for a while I was struggling with, oh man, like, was I too much of myself? Was I too Delia-ish for them? Like, did I scare them off? I got over that when I started to say, you know what? I'm fully embracing and loving who you are, Delia. And I can look in the mirror and say, you know what? You're beautiful on any day of the week. And I fucking love you. Like when I heard that come from Heather Perillo, I fly, I fucking love you. That just like changed everything. Cause I'm just like, how many people can really sit there and look in the mirror and tell yourself, I love you? I couldn't do it for a while. And then when I found that, I'm like, that gave me permission to just be me. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
good with being me. I'm not interested in all the fancy ass equipment when I do my podcast. I'm not interested in like pounds of makeup on my face to come on your podcast. Like, this is me. So when you see me and you see me in real life, it's the same person. Like, you're not going to be like, oh, wait, are you the same person? No, it's me.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I have, that's a freedom. These people
That's
are
the freedom.
entrapped
You're
in
not
their prison
yes,
of their own mind.
yes,
I love
They're
that.
being in prison. Yep.
absolutely.
Now, Delia, that's last question that we kind of have as a, it's more like a signature question. We bid all our guests off, and that's something we want to have an answer from everyone to see how everybody reacts. Now, imagine this. Imagine now, you know, you're around like 100 years old now, right? You're on your deathbed, and everything you've accomplished in life has everything you've done in your life, everything you achieved so far is all gone. There's nothing to your name anymore. Now, if you can go back and give three pieces of advice with that in mind, three pieces of advice to your younger self or someone like your grandkids, what would you say?
I would say to always be who you really are. Don't care what they say. And just lead with your heart. Those are the three things I would say. I think that's what matters.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah. And that's a very common thing we hear sometimes as well. A lot of people are always talking about be true to yourself.
Yeah. We're catching all the keywords, right? Like we always have this signature question so that, see what are the commonalities of what people actually say about these when this question is asked. And this is what
Mm-hmm.
one thing is really very true, like what you said, is that who you really are. And this has been pretty much a common standpoint for a lot of people who have come to this podcast, and they say that just be yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is
Because
really,
when you get older, that's like the hardest. That's like like, damn, why didn't I do this all these years?
just think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Just think about it. It is so important, yet so easy to, uh, forget about also.
Mm-hmm.
That we actually have to remind ourselves and saying, be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's so
for sure.
profound in that case, like thinking about. So, yeah, thank you so much. It was such a wonderful conversation. It didn't even
Thank you.
Right.
feel like that, we were having a podcast. It was just like Ali, we might have had this podcast like three
Mm-hmm.
times already before this. So like that,
Right.
Mhm.
we have had these conversations. And thank you so much for sharing light into your life and your personal experiences. And
Mhm.
I hope, this gives that power, that strength to somebody out there in the world who's listening to this podcast, and be that badass girl that you are.
Yeah. That's why I share. I know some people are uncomfortable sharing their past and like the dirty secrets, but I just feel like we're all going through shit, and whoever it's
Yeah,
meant for them here, I hope it helps them find your power.
100% agree. Thanks a lot, Delia. We really
Thank
appreciate you
you.
coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, before you go, sorry, one last thing. Now, if someone needs to contact you for, let's say, mentorship or anything, where can they get in touch with you?
My website is up and live, thewrittenpodcastagency.com. And you can
Mm-hmm.
schedule a call with me there. You can find out more about me, and we can connect anytime you're ready.
Perfect. And is there a social media if you're active there, if they can reach you
Yeah,
directly?
on Instagram, it's delia.say.what. I'll get to you within a week. I'm not super active on Instagram. Facebook is Delia Peterson.
Okay, but your website's the main place they can reach you.
Yes, the
For
writtenpodcastagency.com. Yep.
Written Podcast
And could
Agency.
you also give a little brief about like what work that you do?
The Written Podcast Agency is like my baby right now. I'm a copywriter. I'm a creative nonfiction writer. So I do the copywriting for Impact Theory for all of their shows,
Nice.
taking on more clients, doing content that has more passion and more personality, but more value and engagement for the audience, for the listeners, for the readers, that actually just means something more than just the stupid keywords you see on a page. Like, let's
Agreed.
change the standard.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I
Love
can
that.
quickly vouch for Dahlia because we recently got some work done for Mark as well. And uh, when you sent me the copies and the way that it was written earlier, like before somebody else had done the work, it was huge difference. And I think that got me connected with you. And I was like, I told Mark, I want Dahlia.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so your work is pretty, like, really authentic, and it's original, and it really resonates, make that kind of a connection with people. So thank you for whatever work that you're doing. It's really generous work and act of
Thank
kindness.
you. Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dalia,
All
thank
right.
you everyone for
Take
listening.
care.
Take care.
Bye.